Ever since I was little, I've been taught to work hard and give 100% effort in everything that I do. This sounds like a good thing, and it is. But this mindset has caused me to carry things normal people shouldn't have to carry. I've carried a standard that absolutely no one can live up to, and it has slowly killed me, but also made me better. Perfection is an impossible task. This I know. Yet for some reason, I still try to be perfect. It's a constant battle and struggle that has no place in my life, but I let it be there. I'm trapped in a prison of my own making. That's something I wrote for my literature class a few weeks ago. And I know that probably wasn't the introduction you were expecting me to give you, but I thought it would give you a little foreshadowing of my life before jumping right into my story. My name is Miolen. I'm a senior from Cleveland High School, and I've been raised in church my entire life. I was practically born here. I accepted Christ at a really young age, and because of this, my trials didn't come until after I was saved. In middle school, I was Little Miss Perfect. I had perfect grades, great friends, and the good Christian girl reputation. I had everything together, or so I made everything appear. Most people don't know this about me unless they already know my story, but middle school me was very depressed. I had no real friends. I had no one to turn to when the weight of my little world came crashing down onto my shoulders. I felt like God had rejected me. I felt like He had betrayed me. I was all alone. Do you ever feel like God doesn't listen to you? Because that's exactly how I felt. There were many nights I spent crying out to the Lord and asking Him to just not let me wake up in the morning, because I honestly did not want to go through those hallways with a fake smile pasted across my face like everything was fine, when I knew it wasn't. I never wanted people to discover how broken I was, and I was very good at hiding it. Sorry. I was probably the fakest person in the room, and let me tell you, I hate fake people. So it only made sense that I hated myself. I hated who I was because I despised how broken I was, because I knew I couldn't fix it. I was in a downward spiral, kind of like Jeremiah. Jeremiah was a prophet chosen by God to tell the Israelites that their unfaithfulness to God was causing God to turn against them. Now, this is not news people are going to receive with joy. So it only made sense that Jeremiah faced many inner battles. He didn't understand why God had chosen him to be the bearer of bad news. Just like many of us, Jeremiah just wanted to be accepted. But because of his calling, he felt alone. In Jeremiah 15:19, it's recorded that God told Jeremiah, after Jeremiah called out to him about his suffering, that if you repent, I will restore you, that you may serve me. If you utter worthy, not worthless words, you will be my spokesman. Let this people turn to you, but you must not turn to them. God wanted his people to repent. He didn't want just a simple apology. He wanted his people to have a true, repentant heart. And in order for God to let them have this repentant heart, he saw it best for them to go into captivity. And guess who had to tell the Israelites that they were going to be handed over to the Babylonians? You guessed it, Jeremiah. Obviously, this was not a simple task. This came with many death threats and many nights of sadness of Jeremiah calling out to the Lord about his suffering. This part of Jeremiah's story I can relate to. My 7th grade year, my parents forced me to go to a D-Now weekend, which is a youth retreat weekend that's now known as the Lift Tour. That weekend, I was really starting to struggle with my salvation. I really didn't know let me rephrase that, I'm sorry. I started to doubt my salvation because I figured, why would God make me walk through this season all alone? And that weekend, I got down on my knees and I asked God if I was truly saved. And that weekend, he told me, Morgan, you are saved. I just need you to start living for me. And when I heard that, it really hit me like a ton of bricks because I realized I wasn't living out truthfully the way God wanted me to. I was struggling with my worth and my identity because I didn't know who I was anymore, because I had destroyed the joyful little girl I used to be to become someone who only sought approval. But the problem was, I wasn't seeking approval in the right places. I was neglecting everything God had taught me because I wanted to live my way, but still trying to justify my way by being faithful to God. But what does that even mean, living faithfully? If there's any story in the Bible that shows what true faith is, it's God's faithfulness to his people. Time and time again in the Old Testament, the Israelites would turn their back on God, but not once did God turn his back on them. Now, it may seem like God had rejected them at times, especially in Jeremiah's story, but in reality, God was giving them the time and the space they needed to understand why they truly needed God. I chose to share Jeremiah's story because Jeremiah didn't feel like God was listening to his prayers. And I was in the same boat. Why? Because I wasn't listening. Sorry. I was in a one-sided relationship with God. And let me tell you, that will never work. You can hardly even call that a relationship. And that's all God ever wanted from me. He wanted me to know him. He wanted me to seek him. But I never did that until I was in my darkest moment and I needed him the most. Hard times are never fun, but those are the times that really test the strength of our faith. And clearly, mine was weak. And God wanted to make me stronger. I struggled with who I am for a long time. And honestly, I still am. But it wasn't until I started seeking God and his true character that I started to discover who I was. I would like to end with Jeremiah 29:13-14, which says, "You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. I will be found by you, declares the Lord, and will bring you back from captivity." Let this be a reminder that no matter how alone you feel or how far from God you feel, that he will always be there to bring you back home.